Hello and welcome to Whispering Pines. We love to entertain you as you are drifting off to sleep. If you enjoy our content, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. In this video, we have a few spooky tales to tell as you settle in for the night. Story 1 / Harvest at Daggerroot. I was never supposed to be in Daggerroot. My plan was simple: drive through Tennessee, cut east before nightfall, and reach Asheville before midnight. But the GPS had other ideas, guiding me onto rural back roads, a long snake of cracked asphalt, hemmed in by tall cornfields and rusted mailboxes. Just past 8 p.m., my phone lost signal, the engine light flickered on, and the fuel gauge dipped below empty. That's when I saw the crooked wooden sign, nailed to a leaning post. "Welcome to Daggerroot, harvest proud since 1844. I wish I had turned around, but the gaslight blinked relentlessly, and the sun was bleeding out behind the trees, and so I pressed forward. Daggerroot was like something pulled straight from a dust-covered postcard. The kind of place where time seemed to have stalled or slipped backward. Weathered porches sagged under the weight of decades. Fences leaned as if whispering secrets, and horses were tied beside rusted pickups. There were no streetlights, no neon signs, not even visible power lines. The town square was centered by a dry fountain, a small general store, and a church with cracked, stained glass windows. A woman approached me, short, with wrinkled skin and eyes like old wells. She wore a long floral dress that seemed more suited to another century, and a sun hat despite the twilight. "Evening, stranger," she said with a voice that was both warm and sharp. "Y'all lost?" I asked about gas, hoping she might point me toward salvation. But instead she smiled a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, and said, "Not much call for cars in Daggerroot, but you can rest at my home tonight. No charge. Harvest's in 2 days." "We're celebrating." The word harvest twisted in my mind like a thorn, but exhaustion won, and I followed her truck down a gravel road, toward a sprawling farmhouse, surrounded by endless rows of corn that towered like ancient stone walls. Her name was Elsie Walker. She lived alone in the creaking farmhouse, the scent of damp earth and burning wood hanging heavy in the air. She cooked me stew, thick and dark, with a gamey flavor I couldn't place. When I asked what kind of meat it was, she only smiled and said, "Local. The land provides." Above the fireplace hung a painting of a massive scarecrow, its burlap face twisted into a scream, its limbs impossibly long and sinewy, as if it might break free from the canvas. "That's the Harvest Father," Elsie said softly. "He keeps the balance." Later, as I was preparing for bed, she warned, "Don't mind the barn. If you hear crying, just ignore it. Some things just take time to ripen." At 2:17 a.m., a faint cry woke me. Like a child trying not to be heard, the sound drifted from the barn. I slipped on my boots, grabbed a flashlight, and moved through the rustling corn to the looming barn. It was padlocked shut, but through a knot in the wood, I heard a whisper, "Help me, please. She's going to bury me when the moon turns." The barn's boards seemed to breathe, warping and pulsing under my light. I stumbled back inside, locking the guest room door behind me, unable to sleep. The next morning, the town was alive with eerie purpose. Dozens of townsfolk dressed in faded clothes were constructing a towering wooden effigy in the square. 20 feet tall, shaped like a scarecrow with antlers and roped teeth dangling from its arms. Elsie introduced me to several people, all smiling too widely, their hands warm and damp. They repeated a phrase like a mantra. The soil's been good this year. The boy in the barn helped. Now the outsider finishes the circle. I laughed nervously, but Elsie's expression remained grim. Curiosity pushed me to explore Elsie's basement. The air was thick with copper and earth. Shelves lined with jars held seeds and unsettling relics, fingernails, teeth, eyes that didn't look human. At the center was a large leather-bound tome, the Book of Furrows. Its pages depicted hand-drawn rituals of children buried neck-deep, men sacrificed under full moons, and offerings to entities named the Hollowed Man of the Corn, the Bone-Wreathed Harvest Father, and simply the Root. Repeated phrases whispered from the pages. The land feeds and is fed, one from within, one from without. Each generation, one must return. Blood remembers. Elsie caught me in the hallway. Her calm face betrayed nothing, but her eyes gleamed with something cold and ancient. You shouldn't poke at things older than sin, she said. The land called you back. That's how it works. I protested that I wasn't from here, but she pressed a liver-spotted hand to my chest and whispered, Your blood is. Your great-grandfather was born here, left during the Dust Bowl, took more than he gave. Now the soil wants balance. I fled, sprinting toward my car, only to find it gone, the road replaced entirely by waving cornfields, stretching endlessly. They found me and dressed me in burlap, their hands gentle yet unyielding as they led me to the square. The scarecrow was finished, its stitched mouth stretching in the firelight, while children circled, chanting in a language that tasted like ash. Elsie raised a staff of bone and cornstalks and intoned, We give what was taken. We fill the root. 2 boys dragged the hollow-eyed boy from the barn and laid him before the effigy. Then they turned to me. They did not kill me. They buried me alive. I screamed as the earth filled the pit, smothering me up to my neck. Elsie whispered in my ear, You won't die. You'll change. The land remembers. It never forgets its children. As the moon rose, the scarecrow burned, and I felt roots slither beneath my skin, threading through veins and bones. I write this now from beneath the soil, not with hands, but with thought. I am part of it, the worms inside me, the seeds sprouting in my hollow belly. I see without eyes, fields, stalks, roots curling through old bones like fingers through hair. Time bends here. Everything grows and consumes. The harvest father speaks to me, and soon I will call out to those who wander into Dagger Root, the soil thirsting for new blood, hungry for the outsider who completes the circle. The story may have ended, but the comfort of this moment stays with you. Soon we'll slip into the next eerie dream. Story 2. The Blackout Journals. Day 1, lights out. The blackout started at 11:42 p.m. on a Thursday night. I know the time because I was watching a late-night documentary on architectural ruins and eating leftover pad thai when everything flickered out. Lights, TV, fridge, Wi-Fi, gone. At first I assumed it was a typical city brownout. I live in a high-rise on 83rd floor 18. We get power blips now and then. The kind that knock out your microwave clock and nothing else. So I lit a candle, cracked open a warm beer, and sat by the window, watching the city. But the city wasn't there. What I mean is, everything was dark. Block after block of blackout. The skyline, gone. The buildings that usually glowed like jagged constellations, extinguished. No traffic lights, no taxis, no headlights. Just an orange sky. That was the first thing that made my stomach clench. The color. Not black, not dark gray, orange. A deep, unholy amber like the inside of an insect. Like there was a fire burning somewhere out of sight, and it never changed. Day 2, elevators don't work. I slept poorly. Not because I was scared, not yet, but because the silence felt wrong. The usual city hum was gone. No sirens, no cars, no people yelling into cell phones. When I woke up, I expected the power to be back. It wasn't. My phone had no service, no signal bars, no Wi-Fi, no time sync. Just the blinking searching in the top corner, as if the rest of the world had moved somewhere else. I decided to go down to the street and find someone. 18 floors is a hell of a walk, especially in a stairwell with no emergency lights. But I had a flashlight in my junk drawer. The building's lobby was deserted. The front doors, normally locked and secure, had been shattered inward. Shattered, not cracked. The safety glass lay on the floor like broken ice. Outside, it was still orange. Not sunrise orange, not foggy orange, just this endless, suffocating hue, like you were inside a dying sun. The street was empty. Not quiet, empty. No people, no sound, no wind. I saw one car parked at the curb, driver door open, engine off. No one inside. A half-eaten sandwich sat in the passenger seat. That's when the unease started clawing up my spine. Day 3. The thing in the street. Last night, I heard something walking down the street. I killed the candle and watched from my window. The street lights were dead, but the orange sky gave everything a dim silhouette. I couldn't see it clearly, but it was huge, 12 feet tall, maybe more, and it moved slowly, like it was dragging something behind it. Not legs, not feet, something else. It made a sound I can't describe properly, like a subway train breaking underwater, mixed with low groans, like steel under stress. It stopped directly in front of my building. I didn't breathe. After a long pause, it looked up, at my window. I dropped to the floor and didn't move for hours. Day 5, the shape in the walls. I've been rationing food. Water pressure died sometime early this morning. My faucets cough up rust. I tried the emergency hand crank radio I keep under the sink. Just static. But for 5 seconds, I picked up a signal. Whispers. Like a conversation too far away to hear clearly. One voice was weeping. I've started noticing movement in the walls. Not rodents. Not bugs. Shapes. Sometimes I catch them in my peripheral vision. Lank, spider-like limbs pressing from the inside, warping the drywall outward. Then they vanish. I haven't been outside again. Day 7, the journal next door. I broke into my neighbor Nick's apartment today. He was a writer, reclusive, used to hear his typewriter through the wall at odd hours. His apartment was dusty but undisturbed, like he'd stepped out for a minute and never came back. A mug of tea sat cold beside his desk. I found a leather-bound journal. His handwriting was frantic. Here's what stood out. They uncoil through the lines, the wires, the circuits. Without electricity to bind them, they walk again. Not ghosts, not demons, something older. The city hum kept them out. All that noise, all that light, it drowned them. Now it's gone, and they're feeding. The last few pages were smeared and torn, but the final legible line chilled me. The man across the hall watches me when I sleep. His mouth is on the wrong side of his head. I live across the hall. Day 9, the man in my bed. I woke up to find someone lying next to me. For several heartbeats, I was frozen. The body was curled, facing away, under the blanket. Thin, breathing shallowly. I rolled out of bed slowly and backed away. When I turned on my flashlight, there was nothing there. But the mattress was still warm, and on my pillow was a single long hair, not mine. Later, I found small handprints on my bathroom mirror. Day 11, the return of the lights. They came back this morning. The lights, the hum, the water. My phone blinked back to life. Full bars, Wi-Fi, missed calls from friends and coworkers, wondering where I was. They thought I'd been off the grid, camping, or something. I stood at the window, looking down. The streets were bustling, traffic again, people. Sunshine, not orange, blue sky, like nothing ever happened. I thought maybe I had snapped, hallucinated the whole thing. Until I saw Greg. Greg, the building's doorman, whom I hadn't seen since the blackout started, stood smiling at the lobby desk like always. He waved, but his eyes were wrong. Too black, too wide, and behind him the building's power panel was exposed, and all the wires were moving, like they were alive, like snakes made of copper and teeth. Day 12, those who came back. I took a walk, watched people, noticed strange things. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years now greet each other in perfect unison. People walking their dogs at the same time, same pace, turning corners in sync, smiling without blinking. The old woman on 17B no longer needs her cane. I saw her climb up the side of the stairwell like a spider. No one else noticed. No one says anything. Because they aren't people anymore. They came through during the blackout, and now they wear us like costumes. Day 14. I never left. I tried to leave the city. My car started, but the road kept looping back. Highways folded like origami. Street signs changed behind me. I pulled over at a gas station that didn't exist yesterday. Inside, the clerk stared at me and smiled. Didn't move, didn't blink. He was humming. That same signal I heard on the radio. They won't let me go. Because I didn't survive the blackout. I stayed awake. I watched them. I know. And now they want me to join the grid. Day 17. Last entry. Nick was right. They live in the wires. In the current. They never left. Just went quiet for a while. Blackouts are their feeding time. Their harvest. I've stopped using electricity. No lights. No screens. Candles only. But I can still hear them in the outlets. In the buzz of my fridge. In the idle hum of my old laptop. They're waiting. Waiting for the next blackout. Waiting for me to sleep. And when I do, They'll plug me in. Another tale is on its way. But for now, rest your eyes and breathe slowly. You're doing just fine. Story 3. The Woods Whisper Back. I've always loved the wilderness. The crackle of a campfire, the smell of pine needles underfoot, the endless stars overhead. It's the only place that ever truly quiets my mind. So when my friends bailed on our annual camping trip this year, I decided to go alone. Just me, my tent, and the forest. I drove for hours, deeper and deeper into the mountains, until my phone finally lost signal. That's when I parked by the trailhead and started hiking in. The air was sharp and cool, the kind of cold that settles deep into your bones, but feels strangely alive. I picked a spot near a small creek, the water burbling gently over smooth stones. The trees there were thick, towering evergreens wrapped in moss and hanging vines. I set up my tent, built a fire ring, and stacked dry wood. As the sun dropped behind the hills, the woods came alive with sounds. Owls hooting, crickets chirping, the occasional snap of a twig. I had my backpack, my knife, some canned food, and a small journal I always carried on trips like this. I sat by the fire that first night, scribbling down notes, when I thought I heard something moving just beyond the ring of light. It wasn't the usual wildlife sounds. It was deliberate. A slow, dragging sound, like something being pulled through the underbrush. I froze, listening. Then it stopped. Probably a deer, I told myself. But the forest felt different. Heavier, like it was watching me. I shrugged it off and crawled into my tent. It was too soft to make out words, more like breathy syllables carried on the wind. I unzipped the tent just enough to peek out, but the fire was just a pile of embers now. The moon was bright, pale, and cold. The trees swayed, casting long shadows. I called out, "Hello?" Nothing. The whispering grew louder. It circled me, weaving through the trees, echoing off the rocks. And then I heard a new sound. Footsteps. Slow, careful. I grabbed my flashlight and shone it into the dark. The beam cut through the night like a knife, but I saw nothing. No eyes reflecting back. No shapes. Just trees. I got back inside, locked the zipper tight, and tried to calm my racing mind. Maybe it was just my imagination. The loneliness and darkness playing tricks. But then I heard it again. Right outside my tent, whispering. Not words, but something worse. Sounds that felt ancient and hungry. I forced myself to stay awake until dawn, clutching my knife. Morning light was a blessing. I packed up quickly, but as I gathered my gear, I found something new on the ground near my tent. A thin branch, stripped of its bark, arranged in a crude circle. I'd never seen anything like it. Curiosity gnawed at me, but unease pressed heavier. I took a picture on my phone, the only proof I'd have if I got out of here. The next day, I moved deeper into the forest, hoping the weirdness was just a one-time thing. But the feeling of being watched only intensified. I found strange markings on trees, scratches that looked like symbols, or letters I couldn't read. Sometimes, when the wind shifted, I thought I heard voices calling my name, always just out of reach. On the third night, the whispers returned with a vengeance. This time, they weren't outside the tent. They were all around me, pressing in from the shadows. I felt a cold breath on my neck. I spun around with my flashlight, but again, nothing was there. Then my fire suddenly flared up, lighting the entire clearing. In the flames, I thought I saw figures, silhouettes with twisted limbs and glowing eyes. I blinked, and they vanished. Terrified, I packed my stuff and started hiking back toward the trailhead at first light. The forest grew darker and thicker, the trees bending unnaturally, blocking the sun. Every step felt heavier, like the woods themselves were trying to hold me back. The trail was gone. Instead, there was only dense brush and shadows. I was lost. My phone still had no signal. Panic set in. I tried calling for help, but only my own voice answered. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Not slow or careful this time. Fast, crunching leaves, snapping branches, rushing closer. I ran. Branches tore at my clothes and skin. Roots grabbed my feet, but the footsteps followed. I burst through the trees and found myself at a clearing I didn't recognize. In the center stood a massive stone altar, covered in moss and strange carvings, and beneath it, something pulsing and dark. A low guttural growl echoed from beneath the ground. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Suddenly, the earth cracked open. From the shadows, something rose, tall, twisted, and awful. Its eyes burned with unnatural light. It moved toward me, limbs jerking like broken puppets. I stumbled back, tripping over roots, and scrambled away as fast as I could. Behind me, the creature let out a terrible howl that shook the trees. I ran for hours, guided only by instinct. At dawn, I finally stumbled onto a familiar trail. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. For a moment, I thought I saw something watching me from the tree line. The woods whisper back, and I'll never go back. Night is long and calm, and stories are our gentle companions. As you lie still and listen, prepare to be carried into another dream. Story 4. Eyes in the Fog. I never believed in cryptids. Never thought those stories were anything more than campfire tales until the night I met one. It started as a simple hiking trip with my brother Jake. We were heading into a dense stretch of forest near the old mining town of Raven's Hollow, a place whispered about for its strange disappearances and legends of a creature called the Fogwalker. We didn't take it seriously, just two city guys looking to escape for a weekend. The hike was tough but beautiful. Thick trees, tangled roots, and that thick mist that always clung low to the ground, especially near the creek. By the time we set up camp near a clearing, the sun was dipping behind the mountains. We made a fire and cooked some stew while swapping dumb stories, both of us laughing and trying to shake off the chill. That night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to something odd, a faint rustling outside the tent. I nudged Jake, but he was out cold. I unzipped the flap to look around. The mist hung thick and heavy, swirling like smoke between the trees. Then I saw it. Eyes. two glowing eyes, floating low in the fog, maybe 20 feet away. I froze. The eyes blinked slowly, then disappeared behind a tree. I told myself it was just a deer, or maybe a reflection from the fire. But my gut screamed otherwise. I zipped the tent back up and stayed awake, flashlight scanning every shadow, heart hammering. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, until I heard the sound. A low, guttural growl, mixed with something almost like a human moan. It was close. Too close. I grabbed my knife, shaking, and whispered Jake's name. But he didn't wake. The growling got louder, circling the tent. Suddenly, a sharp tap on the tent fabric made me jump. I shone the flashlight toward the noise. Nothing but fog. Then I saw it move, just a flicker. A tall, misshapen silhouette, standing beyond the firelight. It wasn't human. Its limbs were too long, its movements jerky and unnatural. I couldn't look away as it crouched low and stared. Its eyes glowed a deep amber, almost hypnotic. I wanted to scream, but my voice was caught in my throat. After what felt like forever, it turned and disappeared into the mist. The next morning, Jake laughed it off when I told him, but he looked pale, nervous even. We packed up and headed back, but something had changed. The forest felt different, oppressive, watching. As we followed the trail, I noticed broken branches and strange, deep gouges in the bark of trees. They looked too deliberate to be animal scratches. Suddenly, a scream shattered the silence. Jake. I spun around to see him clutching his leg, face twisted in pain. The deep, bleeding wound oozed on his calf, like something had slashed him with claws. I tried to help, but the pain made him collapse. "Stay here," I said, panic. Rising, "I'll get help." I ran, heart pounding, scanning the trees for movement. That's when I saw it again, the tall figure, just beyond the fog, watching me with those glowing eyes. I screamed and ran faster, branches whipping my face. I finally reached the ranger station, breathless and bloody. They sent a team back with me to find Jake. When we returned, he was gone. No sign of struggle. No tracks leading away. Only those strange gouges on the trees, and the thick, lingering fog. The rangers wouldn't believe the story. They called it a mountain lion attack. But I know what I saw. The fog walker is real, and it's still out there, waiting, watching, watching. Thank you for joining me in this journey through shadows and whispers. As the story fades, let your mind soften and your body relax. Allow the calm to wash over you as you drift deeper into rest. If you enjoyed this tale, please like the video and subscribe so we can share many more journeys into the night together. Sleep well, and until next time, may your dreams be peaceful and your night calm.